if you don't know the financials and you haven't taken the time to make it easy for other agents to just go through and be able to see the expenses, the NOI and everything, then yeah, I mean, I would want to know as an owner that my agent isn't through doing their job.
Um, well, yeah, I 100% agree. One-on-one. We got a guest. She's kind of like a guest. Can't wait to introduce you to our sort of like a guest, but she's more like family than a guest. But before that, my brother Alberto from another mother. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, man. It's good to be back after taking a week off. So getting back into into that rhythm on
Yeah.
Mondays. But doing well, just trying to stay cool. I mean, I am cool, but I'm just trying to stay cool, from this heat outside. But it's going well, man. I'm looking forward to a productive week. I'm always looking forward to our calls too at 12:30. So I'm really interested in listening to what Anna has to say about multifamily and NOI. I know I'm going to learn a lot since that's a little bit of an area that I do want to learn more from. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, 100%. This is actually a response to quite a bit of frustration points that we have, but we're going to dig into it. Want to introduce you to Ona Alicia. Ana, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Coming
you
off
for
camera.
having me. Yeah, of course.
Just like 2 minutes ago, she's like put on her makeup. It's the first time she's worn makeup in a week. So good job. So got to give you a hard time. So I want to tell y'all about one of the many deals that we're looking at. I found this portfolio, and this is a pretty common theme. And Anna, you can probably speak into this. I know Albert, you can too. They want to send pictures. They want to tell me how nice the property is. They even tell me that it's bringing in thousands of dollars in short-term vacation rental income. None of that gives me the information that I need to evaluate this deal. And what the banks are needing, they needing NOI, net operating income. So you know what? She responds with a very long email with dozens of attachments and links to Dropbox and links to Google Drive. There were plenty of photos, which is great. I mean, photos are important. There were, each unit was on a separate Airbnb or a VRBO platform. So I can see like the rental income coming in ish. I don't think it was showing everything, but it certainly wasn't organized by it wasn't organized by month. Like I couldn't go to April and say, okay, what was your total revenue in the month of April? I couldn't do that. I need expenses, and so she sent utility bills. So 12, I think it was 12 units. She sent 12 different utility bills for electric, for plumbing, like all this stuff. And I'm like, what? So you don't know the answer to my question, do you? You want me to, you know, do you need me to co-list this with you? Is that what you're saying? I'm like, are you seeing that, Anna?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What is your perspective? Like, how does that make you feel?
I think it's people don't want to do their own job at that point. If you don't know the financials and you haven't taken the time to make it easy for other agents to just go through and be able to see the expenses, the NOI and everything, then yeah, I mean, I would want to know as an owner that my agent isn't through doing their job.
Um, well, yeah, I 100% agree. I
This
don't
is
know if
why,
these
Austin,
owners know. Go ahead.
Austin, this is why that us as investors or lenders complain about commissions
Hmm.
because of the situation you're describing.
It's totally justified. Like that's a completely legit complaint, and I think I can speak for Anna when it comes to to saying that we're at the point like if you don't know your numbers as a seller, you're giving me a knife to a gunfight, and that's that's really a serious issue. So the problem is evident, right? Albert, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I mean, I've just seen similar situations, right? We just experienced it kind of, with this nineplex that we were looking at, and I think the term that the wholesaler or agent, whoever we were talking to, used was basically this is a shoebox operation, meaning that this person probably has a shoebox filled with years of receipts and things are out of order, things are maybe written down on napkins, just, not really good records, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are exactly right. If you're representing a client like that, you don't really have a lot to go on, and it's very hard to evaluate that property and come up with the listing price because then they're emotional about it, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about all that, but you're kind of having to work backwards, but you don't have all the data. You know what I mean? It's hard to do.
And if whoever said that commercial is less emotional than residential, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Okay, so I think the problem is evident, and I think the problem creates challenges. First of all, foremost for the seller, because I really believe that most sellers, when they evaluate their property, they're not completely over evaluating it. Like in their head, like if I bring a 10 unit to market at $1 million, and I'm like it's worth $1 million, I may not be wrong about that evaluation. The problem is I don't have the numbers to back it up, and so we want to help. Part of the if you're a seller or if you're an owner, and if you are an owner not wanting to sell, this still applies to you because you may one day want to sell, or you may need to refinance, or whatever, or borrow against your property. Or you just may want to be a responsible property owner. So, what we're going to be talking about today, first of all, is going to help the sellers. Now, this is REI 101. So, a lot of people on this call, they're looking to buy real estate. I would also say that the problem that we're talking about today presents a tremendous opportunity. And the question here is, how do we take advantage of that opportunity? How do we recognize the opportunity? And how do we take advantage of the opportunity? So if we can find a way to evaluate some of these deals with limited information, I think there's a chance that we can make a lot of money. So moving forward, I want to ask Anna. Okay, so what are some of the things, as a broker, you're representing a good deal of multifamily buyers. What are some of the things that, just right off the bat, what are you looking for when working through these extensive lists of multifamily properties? Like what do you look for?
Um, I would say there's probably three to four things. Cap rate, NOI, is this gonna, can this get a DSCR loan? And yeah, I think those are like my three main things that I look for. Um, and occupancy, obviously, because
Yeah.
that plays a big role in like, okay, can we get this to, can we get numbers out of this or can we not? If it's at 100% occupancy and the rents are as high as they can be, then is this like a value add kind of situation, or is this something where the buyer just knows that you're getting this property and this is all it can do? So
Yeah. So you're talking about like value add versus turnkey.
yeah.
So are you looking mainly for value adds or?
Yeah, for sure. I think Most people are. They're looking for the value add. They're looking to be able to up the rents. If, if the occupancy is below, you know, 80%, they're looking, at those numbers as um, being able to go higher and
Yeah.
obviously get more people in there.
So
Um,
there's a sweet spot there with the occupancy
yeah,
rate, right?
yeah.
Albert, what are you looking for? Cash flowing properties. Is that you're buying more like on pro forma? I mean, obviously you're building properties right now, so
Yeah,
that's
right now we're building,
100% pro
but if
forma.
we're looking for if we're underwriting multifamilies, right? Very similar to what Anna said, is we're looking at NOI 100%. Can we make some cash flow on this thing? Also, too, we're looking at creative deals, right? Can we do something that is maybe seller finance or maybe a
Hmm.
sub two deal? And like she said before too, I just want to agree with her is this DSCR option, right? That's kind of like an exit strategy if I'm going to hold on to this thing long term, right? Can I get this refinanced out? What do those rates look like? Even if it's let's say it's a fixer, right? And we're going to go use hard money or private money to go pick it up. I need to know, like, can we refinance out of this, in
Yeah.
6 months or in a year, or we get this stable, right? After a couple years, can we refinance out of this? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we're kind of looking for.
I had a call with Magdiel Garza. He's been on the call before. He's with South State Bank. And he told me right off the bat, like banks are just not, if there's no performance numbers on large commercial properties like multifamily,
Mhm.
if you can't if you can't show the bank those numbers, they're not going to lend on it. And so in that case, it leaves you with two options. If the bank's not going to touch that, so like Anna, you were talking about the DSCR loans, 1.25, 1.3, 1.35. And for those of you who are not familiar with DSCR loans, just means that for every dollar that you pay on your mortgage, you need to have something left over. And right now, that number is about 30 cents. So 1.3 DSCR means that for every dollar that you pay on your mortgage, you need to have 30% of that left over. But what that's going to require is there's going to have to be a performance metric. There's going to have to be profit in place. And so
Mhm.
one of the first red flags, and Anna, you've probably heard this too, the agent or even the seller will say, well, this thing could be making a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you heard that? What does that tell you when an agent or a seller says, well, they're building a ship channel, they're building cruise terminals. So this is a great time to buy in Galveston.
Yeah.
Like, what does that tell you?
Their numbers are bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
either
much.
that or they have no clue what their numbers are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of deals where the owner has been just completely asleep. So what are some, when you're looking at these, what are some of the, whether you're walking these properties in person or whether you're just, and man, we don't even make it that far as often. We just get through the financials and we hit a dead end pretty quick. What are some of the signs that you're finding that the owner's been asleep at the wheel?
It's a good question. I mean, obviously the financials are all over the place. When there's no, especially no rent rolls or
Yeah.
or they have no idea when their tenants are moving out or
Yeah.
moving, they have no record of it.
Mm.
T12, when those are messed up, you've got the debt, included in the expenses.
Hmm.
That's something we see a lot. People don't know how to separate, those kind of uh, expenses. And yeah, they're just kind of they're winging it and they're
They're
hoping
just
for the
winging it.
best. Yeah.
I mean, what do y'all like? Why do you think that is though? Like, why do you think we're seeing? Because I have a hard time explaining it because the bank is pretty clear on what's going to be required to obtain.
I think it's a lack of education for sure. I think when, I think a realtor is just a saving grace in a lot of these situations. I think people, they read the books, they go to some seminars and webinars, and they think
Hmm.
that this is, something that they can do. And then they get themselves into a situation where they really realized they had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the value of a real estate agent. We do this every single day. And so we have that knowledge, and people need to realize that, call on us because we'll help you out, especially in these sticky situations. But I know Austin gets called when it's like, hey, I'm going to get foreclosed in 30 days. Can you help me? So it's like, no, do it in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
do your due diligence and like asking questions, and you're not going to look stupid if the more questions you ask, it's just going to save you in the long run.
So, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Albert?
No, when you were asking kind of how can you tell when these owners have been asleep and then why that happens, right? Is
Hmm.
I think they a lot of times they're older, right?
Yeah.
They're older and they kind of started off as kind of a mom and pop and maybe they grew their portfolio and just didn't really want to hire a property manager, or maybe they did have a property manager and they just were awful, right? Didn't really help them with records, record keeping, and things like that. And they're just now they're a tired landlord, right? They're a
Yeah.
tired landlord. Again, they get this emotional attachment to the property, and they know that their kids don't want to run the property once they retire or just leave the property to someone, so they're just trying to get rid of it, and it puts buyers in good positions, in
Yeah.
my opinion. It puts them in good positions, but as the listing agent, it does make your jobs a lot harder. I think that's kind of what happens too, the education part of it, and they're just tired, right?
Yeah.
They're older, they don't want to deal with all that, or they expect you, Anna, to come in and walk in and just kind of like take this stack of paper and be like, okay, I
Make
think it's
something
worth
out.
1.2, and you're trying to piece this all together, and it's really like maybe 750, right? And then you have to break the news to them, and then you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to get the listing, right? Because they want to list
Yeah.
at 1.2, but we're never going to sell it at that. So, I
That's
just think they're
huge.
they're just tired, man.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think there's a lot of that. We're at a crossroads. There's a perfect storm happening right now. So, so the first thing that you bring up, there are a lot of owners right now still. And a lot of people that may have, I mean, we talk to people that have owned the same property since the 80s or 90s of the
Mhm.
last century, right? And uh, they're tired. They've been making so much money off these properties because it was worth a fraction of the present value back, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we have that one layer of sellers that have been around for longer. We have another layer of sellers that own these own these large multifamilies, mid to large, and they financed at 4.5%, 5% interest. And so they have those golden handcuffs. So they're making a little bit of money also. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But again, uh, when you're cash flowing and you're making money, it's very, very easy to take your eyes off the wheel, right? And so keeping really, really good financials, and we talk about this every single episode, and we will continue mentioning this, how critical it is to keep excellent financials on a month-to-month basis because you're running it like a business, right? You're like a doctor doing surgery. You've got to monitor the heart rate and all the vitals. And that's the healthier business. So the third layer is values are going down, inventory is going up, interest rates are going up. So it's more challenging for a seller to sell. It's challenging for a buyer to buy. But in my opinion, and let me correct me, or if you disagree with me, let me know. But in my opinion, right now is like one of the absolute best times for a buyer to buy. I'm not saying that because you're not gonna buy something and just make $1 million walking into the deal. Like that kind of stuff doesn't really exist. It may have, in the last recession, but the opportunity, in my opinion, lies with the buyer. Um, there's a lot of upside to buying, and if you can hold on to it for a few years, this market will eventually, at some point, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but at some point that when this market rebounds, anybody who finds a way to purchase real estate in this current market is going to reap tons of rewards eventually if you're patient, right? Do you agree or no?
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree. Yeah.
So you and I, Anna, we make this sound quite simple
Yeah.
because the equation is real simple. It's revenue. So how much money does it make? And if you can say every month it brought in X amount of dollars, 10,000 or 20,000, whatever. And then every month we had these expenses, regular operating expenses. And when you take A minus B, you get NOI. That's your profit. So if it's that simple, why do you think most homeowners only do A or they only do B, but they're having such a hard time really communicating what C is? Why? Why is that?
I don't know, man. I just think that, for me, for instance, we manage, I don't know, 15 other properties. So we have a portfolio, including our properties, about 24 doors, all single families. And I would still consider ourselves kind of like a mom and pop operation. I kind of wear
Yeah,
all the hats, right? It is hard to track. Like it is really hard to track expenses across that many properties within two separate businesses.
yeah.
So, it's easy to track the income, right?
Hmm.
Because that's coming into your bank account all the
Bingo.
time, right?
Yeah,
It's those expenses that, you can get very behind on very quickly, and they don't feel like they can afford. Like I have an accountant, right? But I kind of do the bookkeeping, but the CPA is really good. Most mom and pop people, they don't even have a CPA, right? They're still
yeah.
doing everything in Excel and spreadsheets, and they're not
Quicken.
using QuickBooks, whatever, right? But tracking those expenses, especially if you have just even a small portfolio, right? They can add up like very, very quickly. So I think that's why what people don't really understand the value of the property, because they see the income of, oh yeah, I'm making, $10,000 a month, right? But they're not subtracting all those expenses, or they don't have a clear view of the expenses, and they just think the property is just worth a lot more than it really is.
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's I think people get emotionally excited about the revenue that's coming in.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then they are like an ostrich digging their head in the sand, burying their head in the sand when it comes to um, those expenses, right?
Hmm.
Anna, what type of expenses do you think are you seeing that are just really hurting deals right now, that are hurting sellers specifically?
Mm, I would say, huh,
I mean, is it ongoing stuff? Is it like property management? Is
it
it
can be property management, um, maintenance.
maintenance?
I know some of them, I have a lot of people who are paying like water, electricity, gas, and there's always ways to,
Yeah.
get around that. Yeah, those ones are definitely big ones, is them paying the utilities.
Utilities are a big thing. I worked with a client for a long time, and he would always negotiate if the property was not on separate electric meters, like that was part of what he was going to do that going into the deal.
Yeah.
Sean, our guy Sean. By the way, Sean just leased out the fourplex, so we got to get him back on the back
Yeah.
on the show. It took a little longer than he was expecting, but he got it leased out. Um, but he's doing RUPS on one of the properties, and so
Hmm.
he's just charging that. But that's um I think in Texas you can't charge, like you can't make a profit off the electricity. So you have to keep a record.
Mhm.
So you have to have a way where you can actually like show them how much electricity is being used. So that does take some diligence
What
and
about
some,
what about like taxes and insurance? Like that expense?
I
Is
can tell
that,
you
are
for
you seeing that on the
sure,
multifamily side too, going up?
Yes.
Yeah.
right? Are you seeing taxes and insurance?
Mhm.
Yeah.
In residential, if you own a house, there's only so much that the county can raise your taxes, or that any entity can. You have a cap per year of how much. Commercial, we've seen people have their tax assessment. would get doubled in a single year.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
a lot of people, especially guys that like own several, like a portfolio, and maybe they're asleep at the wheel. Like we saw a portfolio, we've seen people with hundreds of properties in the portfolio, and they have no idea what's going on. They just buy it like they're on their way to the grocery store or buy milk and bread in a house, and they just come back home and finish the day. And they have no idea what's going on with these deals. So yeah, I think taxes is a huge one. Insurance, you mentioned insurance. Insurance rates are always changing. And so I think that's a huge deal
Mm.
too. Some people are either overinsured or they're just paying a high rate when they can get something better. So 100%. Um, what else? So we're talking about the equation, revenue minus expenses.
Let's talk about revenue. That looks good.
So revenue.
I'm ready to
So
debate you.
what's that?
Ready to debate you.
You're ready to debate me? Okay. Well, go ahead. Throw down the gauntlet, Albert. Let's see what you got.
Well, I mean, the question is, does it make sense for a landlord, right? A good landlord, which is how you labeled it in our notes. A good landlord will reprice, I guess, go up on rents according to the market on a regular schedule. And the other side of that is, well, you've got renters that have been paying on time and taking care of your place and paying down that mortgage for 6 years, right? Do you really want to raise the rent on them? You know?
At
So,
least a little bit.
I
That's
mean, y- I this year was the first year, so I can validly take this position. This year was the first year that we did not raise rents.
yeah.
And in a market where rents are going up. We do have the opportunity. I ran the comps. I will tell you, uh, I mean, I'll be fully transparent with you guys. A little bit of it for me was fear
Yeah.
that these renters who have been great renters and again paid on time, and these aren't little $1,000 rental properties. These are $1,800, $2,200, $2,400 rental properties, and I'm not getting a lot of cash flow, right? For me, I looked at it as if they decided because the economy and everything is so expensive and they're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go, we're gonna downsize, right? We're
Yeah.
whatever, this is not worth it anymore, then how much is it gonna cost me to turn that property over? You know,
Right.
that's how I looked at it this year. Just big picture, right? I know everything is expensive for me, and if everything is expensive for me, everything is expensive for my renters,
Yeah.
right? Light bill, water bill, my insurance and taxes have gone up. They don't necessarily see that, but I'm more willing to take a little bit of a hit this year and not raise rents and keep good renters in there. Now, if
Right.
they're just awful, they're paying late every month for the past 6 months, I'm going over there and the grass isn't cut right, then that might be an opportunity like, hey, you know what? I may have more longer term issues with this house if I leave this renter here. Right.
Right.
Now, I'm not trying to price them out either, but I'm not necessarily giving them that benefit, right, of not raising the rent is I might have a better renter right around the corner.
I don't 100% disagree with you. And I was in San Antonio for mega camp, and it's always interesting to me to have these types of conversations with agents and investors from other markets. There are a lot of states in our country, they have the rent control.
Mhm.
And a lot of investors they think that's just the most evil thing in the world that the government can do. But there's a purpose behind rent control. And you may think that some of these rent control laws are too strict or too impractical. I would say rent control limits appreciation in properties. However, understanding the reason behind this, Alberto, um, it's kind of messed up to force somebody out because they're not paying the amount of rent that you want them to pay. I think there is certainly an ethical responsibility that property owners have. So
Mhm.
I acknowledge that. and but at some point you have to raise the rents. That
Mhm.
the rate at which you increase rents, for instance, as a buyer walking into that property, a good investor is going to do like a 5-year projection of,
Mhm.
and so right now in the Houston market, vacancy is at 12%, occupancy is at 88%. And rent on a two bedroom apartment complex is about 1,400, 1,500.
Mhm.
I wish.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not your apartment,
Not
Anna.
my
It you should be able to say like, okay, 1450. So our target is 1450. Actually, in 5 years, it's going to be 1650, right?
Mhm.
And I'm walking into this average apartment that I'm buying at an average cost, but they're paying 1250 or 1150 or 1050. And so eventually what you have to say is like, okay, I'm going to raise the rents, but I'm not
Mhm.
going to go straight from 1150 to 1550 in one
No.
year.
Right.
You have to be able to project that over 5 years, and that's going to play into your numbers walking into the deal right there. So you never you never can just buy a property based on how much it could make, right? So I don't know if that kind of makes sense. As somebody who owns a property and you're not planning on letting it go in the next couple of years, and we are in a recession, I mean, you
Mhm.
can do whatever you want. You have good tenants. You should be, yeah, I think that's great. You know, take care of them. They'll take care of you. You'll probably lose more money if you evict them or force them out because you're going to have a vacancy for 2 months,
Right.
and it's going
Right.
to take you 18 months to recoup that loss.
Yeah.
So it's better. So moving on. Okay, so we're talking about revenue. In regards to revenue, is there any, before we move on to expenses, is there any other place that owners, landlords, or even buyers are leaving money on the table when it comes to revenue?
Mhm. Mhm.
So what makes up the revenue?
Well, there's a few things. There's laundry. That can be one.
Oh, that's good.
Um,
I
there's
think of when you say laundry, I think of
yeah.
storage units.
Hmm.
Yeah, parking, garages,
Yeah.
storage, yeah. Gosh, they charge us like $30 for a parking spot. It's not even covered.
And you're gonna pay it too if
Yeah,
you want to live
yeah.
there.
I mean, garages are a good one too because they're like $100. I've seen people spend $150 for just a garage in an
Yeah.
Hmm.
apartment, which is crazy to me. But
So
um,
vending machines, right? I don't
vending
know.
machines,
I don't know. In a lot of my experiences, the laundry is just a nice thing to have. I don't know if it
yeah,
really, uh,
What about like pet rent,
pet
right?
rent.
yeah, pet
You
rent.
know,
Pet
pet
rent
rent
is
because some
a,
people charge like either a pet deposit or pet fee,
Mhm.
and it's just a one-time thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
some apartment complexes or even, single family homes, they'll increase the rent by a certain amount,
yeah,
so they
Hey,
kind of get that over time,
and
you
most
know.
pet owners are happy to pay that too
yeah, they
because
are.
they love their pet. They love
Like
Yeah.
their pet.
we did for that last for my friend Deshay, we did a $450 pet deposit, and then for each pet it was $25 extra. So
Per month.
Yeah,
we rented it out for 1250, but she actually gets 1300 a month.
Yeah.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I would say walking into the deal, or from a seller, a broker, or a buyer, there's two things that you always need to know about the market. You've got to know what the vacancy rates are because you're going to compare the performance of that property against the vacancy rates. Just because the vacancy rates of that specific property is lower than market, that's not necessarily a good thing because having very like if a property is 100% occupied all the time, what what can you infer or assume about that property? Do you
The
think that they're
rents are too
charging,
low.
say that again, Albert?
Rents are too low, yeah.
Yeah, the rents are probably too low. And then that's what gets you into that's the next metric. You want to know what those rent comparables are. And like you and I were debating about, does that is that something that we're going to be able to fix in 1 year, or is that going to take 3 to 5 years
Hmm.
like if they're way below market, we can't just raise somebody's rent by $400 a month.
No,
I think that's unethical to me. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that has to
We
be kind
also
of stepped up.
what's
we
that
have
on?
we have some HOA fees that we pay as well. Like we pay pest, we pay trash. They even got a deal with Xfinity, so now all of our internet is done through the complex. I don't know how much they get off of
Mm.
that, but that's also something that you can add on as well to get some
Uh,
money.
Hmm.
But
that
I
yeah,
like
I don't know the answer to that, but now I have a
yeah.
question I
I
want
mean, it did
answered.
lower it lowered my internet $30 a month, but they have some type of deal with the internet company, so I thought that was pretty cool.
So that's interesting. So I wonder if you can do any type of referral programs as a
Yeah.
landlord. Uh,
Yeah.
we have, C Dang, and we have
Hmm.
our Reliant Concierge, for a landlord. That might be just something that I hadn't thought about that until you brought that up, Anna.
Hmm.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
If you have somebody that like and trust, and like a utility concierge that you can refer to tenants,
Hmm.
um,
Well, it's a
that's
win-win because it's on
yeah,
there. I mean, you're going to have internet whether you want it or not,
yeah,
but
Hmm.
it's also a heck of a lot cheaper, almost 50% cheaper if you were to do it by yourself.
yeah,
Hmm.
100%. So let's
So
go into our
it's
next
also like
debate.
just one more
Go
thing I want
ahead.
to add to that, Austin. Like that's a good, that's good marketing, right?
Mhm.
Is when you're marketing your property, because we do that for one of our single family homes for student housing, right? We have factored in pest control quarterly, landscaping every 2 weeks, and internet, and we've just factored that into the rent. So now the student doesn't have to worry about, or students don't have to worry about getting a lawnmower. They don't have to worry about hiring a pest control company coming in every 3 months.
Yeah,
And, they don't have to go get the internet switched over, right? They're just walking in, just get your lights and your water turned on, you're good to go. So you're kind of removing some of that friction of getting people to move into your property. So that's good, in my opinion, some good marketing if you can kind of throw those in,
Yeah.
right? Even though it might be a little bit higher, or maybe it's less expensive if you do it yourself, but I think if there's a big gap, right, Anna, then yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, I'm probably gonna go look somewhere else because I don't want to pay $100 here, but I can go pay $50 over here for internet or something,
yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
yeah. So
Anyway,
moving into expenses, internet, that could be a good expense. It sounds like, Anna, that your landlord may have figured out a cheat code when it comes
Yeah, for
to the
sure.
internet. So yeah, that's huge because when you look at the market financials on CoStar, internet kickbacks is not an income source on any financial statement. So if you're able to show like these bonus sources of income, I think that's very compelling to a buyer. So I think most owners, they cut when they do cut expenses. A lot of owners tend to cut the wrong things because they cut what they can see.
mm,
Mhm.
The things that people are quick to cut, which I think is probably a big mistake. And you see this all the time when you walk these properties. Maintenance is the first
maintenance,
thing that goes out the door.
delayed maintenance, yeah.
Mhm.
And along with maintenance, I would also add something that I think is way overlooked is like landscaping
Mhm.
and trash pickup.
Yeah.
So in fact, it's probably one of the easiest things to do um, to really improve the experience of the tenant. And if you have a tenant that's having a great experience living there, right, I think they're going to stay longer. They're going to refer people over there. And it could be something as simple as just walking around. You don't even have to pick the trash up. Just ask the tenants to pick their trash up. Ask the tenants, not to leave a bunch of junk outside, and that just makes things a little bit more um, pleasant for the tenant. What are some other things that you're seeing on a that landlords are cutting from their expenses that they probably should not?
I mean, you said the main ones.
So maintenance, management,
Yeah, maintenance
Yeah.
management,
Property management.
landscaping.
Yeah.
landscape. But a high key on the landscaping.
Yeah,
Um, because I mean, the 54 unit, that we had listed it was a probably C, D class, but the landscaping was beautiful. I mean, the property management company took such good care of the place. I was like, this is really nice.
yeah,
Although like rents were like 600, $800 a month, and it was in a lower class area, like it was a beautiful property,
yeah,
very well maintained. Um, and the people they had people that had lived there for 15 years. Just because of the way that it was run, they had no issues.
yeah. No, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
What are some of the cuts that need to be cut, Albert? Like what are landlords still paying for that they should probably
I don't know. I
renegotiate or
think that
cut?
landlords can definitely shop around, like their insurance, for
Yeah,
instance, every year. Although insurance just tends to go up every year. But I think just reviewing how much insurance you have,
yeah,
making sure you're covered, make sure you just have the proper insurance. Things like, property management can go either way. Like when I'm thinking about property management, that was one of the things that you said, is maybe you're being overcharged, right? And it's not being properly managed. I think
yeah,
some owners, landlords get into trouble because they kind of want to bring it in house,
yeah,
right? And then they kind of fall back into what we started this whole call with. Man, they get lazy, they get tired, their record keeping falls by the wayside, right? But maybe they're just messing with they're dealing with a property management company that's in over their head, right? That
yeah,
can't properly manage this 56 unit property. You've
yeah,
got people paying rent late, or you've got landscaping issues, and they're just not performing on their what they're contractually obligated to, right? So maybe increasing that expense makes sense,
yeah,
right? Is okay, cool. I need to invest a little bit more in a better property management company, because then that
yep,
pays dividends down the road, right? You're having the correct and on schedule rent increases. You're having a more professional face to your company. You're going to attract maybe a different kind of renter, or you're going to keep the renters that are there because now they're seeing, oh, wow, okay, now this place is getting taken care of,
yeah.
right?
That's
So, yeah,
that's
it doesn't make
huge.
sense to just cut, cut, cut. Sometimes it makes sense to just invest a little bit more.
It does.
Yeah, you don't want to just always cut. You want to make sure that you're getting a return on that dollar that you're spending.
I was just trying to
So,
find a way to disagree with you here. So,
yeah, no, we don't
yeah,
we don't
I
really
think I landed
disagree.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
We
have a
we can play.
situation like that too with our 14, unit. Finally, the
Yeah.
property, we've been telling the owner, hey, we need a new property management company right
Yeah,
now.
and he knew that. Like he never
And he
disagreed
knew,
with that.
and he knew. And so finally we've done that. But I told him today, I said, it's going to take 3 to 6 months for them to, get the numbers back, to where they need to be so
Mhm.
that we can sell it for what you want. So
Yeah.
I'm like, be patient
Mhm.
because, this, yeah, it's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while.
Like it's not just like a boop, you put them there and 30 days later it's the property's filled up, to 100%. It takes a minute. So
So I want to leave everybody with the rule of thumb. Write this number down, 40/60. That's in the most simplest way. Your expenses should really not ever exceed more than 40% of
yeah.
your income. Your profit should be 60% profit, And then out of that profit, then you subtract your debt service. Debt
Mm.
service is not an expense. So the rule of thumb is 40, 60. So if you're over 40, you need to cut some stuff. If you're way under, if your expenses are 20%, you're probably managing it yourself, which is
Mhm.
okay. But there may be some areas where you can
Mhm.
invest some money that you're going to see a return on. Whether, it could be marketing. Marketing needs to be a certain amount of your budget. And if you look at that and you say, if you can't say that my expense ratio is 40%, like whatever business you run, whether it be a taco truck or a restaurant or a hotel, every industry has their own kind of guide rail metric of what the profit should be. If you're investing in multifamily and you look at the average financials in the Houston market, it's about 38, 39%. So just for good measure, 40%. It's a good rule of thumb. Stay under that. You're going to have a um, healthy investment, healthy business. So, Anna, thanks for being on the show with us. Any final words?
Is it pet smart or pet smart? I'm
That's the
kidding.
question. That's my question.
No, I'm good.
Thanks
This
for
was
being here.
lovely. Yeah, we'll do it again some other time.
Alberto, thank you. Appreciate
All
you.
right.
We're gonna have a good week. Today's Monday. It is, we got one more week left in the month. So again, I'm your friend Austin from Houston. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Facebook, we're on uh, Apple, and we're live in person. So stay tuned. Have a great day.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.